Hello and welcome to our Fireside Chat. I'm Neil Milligan. I'm the co-founder of Access Chat, generally a accessibility chaos pixie, giver of hugs and convener in the accessibility space. I'm delighted to be here to interview Mike Hazelwood. Mike is the CEO and founder of SensePilot. Now, Mike and I had a catch-up last week, and I think you'll be excited to hear about the work that Mike's doing. But Mike, please tell us in your own words, what is SensePilot?
Yeah, certainly. So what we do is it's software that takes a live webcam feed and maps out your head direction and facial gestures. So then you can correlate those to mouse clicks, keyboard presses for computer control, and it's accurate enough to enable video gaming.
Okay, so what's different about your solution compared to some of the sort of kit that's out on the market, and what prompted you to enter into this space?
Yeah, certainly. So kind of what makes us different is it's software. So it just uses whatever webcam you have built into your device. So you don't need to get any specialist hardware. So it kind of makes things a little bit easier. As long as you've got access to the internet, you can download a file and install it on the device. You don't need to have a supply chain behind the hardware. So it kind of means we can kind of do things at much lower cost. So you're only just using whatever you have that you can buy from Curry's, PC World, or Media Markt, your local Best Buy, or local computer store. So what got us started? So we're actually a family company. So it's myself and my brother-in-law. He previously worked in the augmentative and assistive communication space. So he was doing a lot of work with head tracking, eye tracking, and had this idea of what can we do with just a standard webcam? What's possible? So we started at a hackathon, roped in other family members, so roped in me. My background's in sales and product management, so kind of was a good fit for him as a software developer. My wife, his sister, is also a software developer, and then also their cousin works in social media and marketing. So we kind of assembled a little small team, just wanting to see what we could do, built a small prototype. So that was, May 2024.
So you've moved pretty quickly, and I'm a big fan of democratizing access through standard hardware and software, because one of the biggest barriers to inclusion is price. So the fact that you're doing that is great. So you've moved pretty quickly. So where can people access SensePilot, and how do they get it? You said that you can download the software. Is it a website?
Yep. So just from our website, sensepilot.tech. Just download it and trial it. So we do a 30-day free trial, so you can get in there, play with it, see what works for you. And then also we've kind of been partnering with some of the AT loan centers in the US, so you can try it at those locations, and trying to kind of get into as many different places as possible so people can try it in other institutions as well.
Yeah. I think one of the big barriers is actually getting to try stuff before you buy it. We know that abandonment rates for assistive tech are particularly high. That's pretty wasteful, given that we don't have a ton of money to make available to our community. So keeping the prices down, keeping the hardware prices and software prices down is important. At the same time, you also need to eat when you're a company. So you're based in Estonia. You don't sound Lithuania. Sorry. Yeah. Yes, you don't look or sound Lithuanian to me. So why did you choose to be based out of Lithuania?
So my brother-in-law lives there. I live in the UK.
Yeah.
There was a small political movement from the UK a few years ago. That's probably a conversation for another day. Mm-hmm. But it basically meant that we could get access to EU grants and kind of public funding, so more opportunities. The UK has since got back into some of those programs, but for us it just made more sense to be based out of a European location.
Yeah, very sensible. I think that also that region is very digitalized.
Yeah. Yeah, the country's invested very heavily in the startup ecosystem. Um, there's a lot of big fintech companies moving into Lithuania. There's a lot of game development happening. So there's certainly a lot of exciting things within the startup ecosystem in Lithuania.
One of the other things that I talked to you about when we were chatting offline was the fact that you're not a SaaS software provider. For me, I think this is really important because it enables your users to have a robust experience. Was that something that you consciously decided on?
Yeah, we still do take some of the SaaS principles, and part of that is a drive to keep things low cost. Where if institutions or healthcare systems want that local support, that's adding significant costs. So we're trying to do things by helping the users. Okay, so there's a how-to manual, but then there's also just small recordings. So it's things from SaaS where every time they push an update, they just push a new video. So trying to keep things as light as possible. If you're still stuck, you can then book time, but trying to make that scale globally. It's fine to book time with a local expert, myself or whoever, if you're in like a European time zone, but if you're getting to Australia or West Coast US, that starts getting problematic with sleep.
Yes. Who needs sleep? So also, but you specifically made a download, and you're not reliant on the cloud.
Correct. Yeah. So our system operates locally on device. So you don't need to be connected to the internet. So for data privacy, we're not taking anything. Certainly, we're a small team, so we don't have the time to go down the pathways of data management paperwork. Everything stays, all your settings stay locally on the computer, but also it just means the tool's more responsive, has less strain on your CPU, and it means also, well, if you're using it for AAC, so if you're using a kind of a text-to-speech or symbol-to-speech system, you can use it no matter where you are, if that's your access method. So you're not reliant on cellular internet or being in a good location with good Wi-Fi or things for your voice.
Yeah, I think that there's two things that are really beneficial from having software that is installed and rather than being reliant on the cloud. You've mentioned the robustness of the experience. The other one is actually the InfoSec issues. So my previous job was in a big corporate, and so some of the things that people as consumers like to use as assistive tech became challenging to implement in the corporate environment because they were cloud-based and because of the challenges as to where that data went and who owned that data and so on. So the fact that you've decided to go down the route of having an installable and not making calls to the cloud, I think actually makes it easier for you to go from gaming to a corporate sphere.
Yeah, absolutely. It was designed around gaming, but really works for wider computer control. We just took the gaming as a interesting example because it's quite a complex thing to do, where you need that kind of accuracy, responsiveness, stability, which just benefits everything else in the computer. So that kind of means that focus on the more complex issue benefits the computer access or use. So if you're using it for web browsing or for work, it's benefited from the design principles.
Yeah. So I'm rubbish at gaming. I tend to use the ones that are turn-based and stuff like that because I'm pretty clumsy, so poor motor control and so on. So are you seeing adoption from different types of user groups for SensePilot, depending on different needs and use cases? What are the primary ones that you're seeing right now?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to our early days of testing with a friend who had a spinal cord injury. Kind of how do we get him back competing and gaming? Then working in Ukraine with soldiers who'd lost limbs. How do they access the computer? What are they using it for? And then February last year, we had our beta test. So that was a mixture of users, of individuals with spinal cord injuries, cerebral palsy, motor neuron or ALS, as well as individuals with repetitive strain injuries or arthritis, and trying to look at the different control methods they need. What inputs do they need to be able to use kind of a tool like this to control the computer to game whatever they want to do? And so it's understanding that. So yeah, we've seen quite a wide range from users. If you have a look at our app, the whole thing is settings. The app is all settings because everything has to have that level of personalization. That's core to what we do.
So again, one of the things that I was impressed with was the way that you were thinking about being able to recover from situations where users' settings get lost or people need to reverse settings. If you've got a complex set of settings and you start playing around with them, sometimes it can be really difficult to get back to something that works. So how did you resolve that?
Yeah, it's just kind of looking at some of the user interface systems. So if you look at sensitivity settings, those would typically be on like a slider scale. You're going to see that a lot.
Yep.
But if you can imagine that your sensitivities, you've accidentally clicked something or it's completely wrong or you're setting it up for the first time, it's going to be very difficult to move and drag that slider. So designing around those sorts of things, kind of having large clickable buttons that are spaced out, to make sure that, okay, you can still get to the next step up if you need to. We do have options to like lock out settings as well. So if, an occupational therapist has done an assessment, they typically don't want someone going back in and playing with it.
Yeah. So one of the things that frequently happens with eye tracking devices was that you need to keep recalibrating. Is that the case with SensePilot, or are you able to sort of calibrate on the fly?
No, it's independent of whoever comes to sit there, basically. So it just kind of goes, there's a face, it's scanning it, hundreds of times a second, and it's all just tweakable and personalizable. So it doesn't need that level of recalibration. There are some settings that you can kind of have to recenter if you want. So you can kind of use a switch or a keyboard press or a facial gesture to kind of map those out. But yeah, there's no real calibration needed. You just go in and try it.
Okay. So we've got a couple of minutes left. So what are the next things that you're going to do? So where's SensePilot going next?
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot more things we want to put in and build. So we have speech recognition now, where you can kind of put in a single word, and then that can spit out a keyboard command or mouse click. The next step to that was actually sound recognition. So again, locally on device. So this was kind of the first building block of this. So if you haven't got that clarity of speech, but you can make that repetitive sound, we could capture that. And the next time we hear that whistle, click, hum, whatever, that means that you want to click left mouse, or it means you want to jump in the game, or things like that. So that's on our pathway. We are looking to work closer with game studios as well to look to see if we can get this embedded within gaming. Certainly there's a great immersivity to it. So, being able to play with it, moving your head around as you look around, you just feel that little bit more engaged without having to wear a full VR headset.
Yeah. So, Ian Hamilton, if you're listening or watching, come and talk to Mike, or Tara, or Bryce. I think you've already talked to Bryce from Microsoft,
Yep.
Right? So, remind us, where can we find you? What's the SensePilot website?
Yep, so the website is sensepilot.tech. And if you're here at the Zero Project, we actually have a setup just down in the gaming station on the ground floor. So you can come and have a go as well.
And what games can we fail at?
We've got Minecraft on there, just nice and easy. Just shows some of the good kind of different control characteristics as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mike. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you to the Zero team for hosting. It's always a pleasure to be here and part of the community. So I hope that everyone's enjoying the conference, whether they be here or online. And signing off on time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.